I believe every member of this Senate and every American understands the very deep debt of gratitude that we owe to the men and women who put their lives on the line to defend this country. That should not be a political issue. It should not be a partisan issue. And I think all of us have been appalled by what we read about in Phoenix and in other locations about people manipulating data, pretending that veterans were getting care in a timely manner when that wasn't the case. It is my strong belief as chairman of the Senate Veterans Committee that every veteran in this country is entitled to high-quality medical care and that they should get that care in a timely manner. I'm going to do everything I can to make that happen. We live, as everybody knows, in a politically divided country and a divided Congress. Reaching agreements is not easy and, quite frankly, does not take place very often here in the Senate. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, without casting blame, it just doesn't happen. And the American people understand that and are not happy about that. So reaching a compromise among people who look at the world very differently is not easy. But in this process, Senator John McCain of Arizona and I have tried our best to come forward with an agreement. It's an agreement which I'm sure he is not 100% happy about, and I can fully assure you I am not 100% happy about. I would have written a very, very different bill. And what I want to say now, in thanking Senator Harry Reid for his strong support for this process, Chuck Schumer, Patty Murray, Dick Durbin, pushing this effort forward, I hope that we will be back on the floor to continue the effort to deal with the many unmet needs of veterans. But right now, we have a crisis on our hands, and it's imperative that we deal with that crisis. And to my mind, the essence of the crisis is that we have learned that in many parts of this country, not all parts, but many parts of this country, veterans cannot get the timely care that they need. They cannot walk into a VA and within a reasonable period of time get the treatment that they need. And so this bill, in a significant way, begins to address that important issue. And let me very briefly tell you how it does that. For a start, there are many locations around the country where we need new facilities, we need refurbished facilities, we need expanded facilities. In fact, there are 26 locations in 18 states where that is the case. This legislation would allow the construction of 26 major medical facility leases in 18 states around the country, and I believe that will help us in many parts of the country in providing the quality, timely care that our veterans deserve. Mr. President, in my view, there are areas of the country where we simply do not have the doctors, the nurses, and the other staff that we need to provide the care that our veterans deserve. Many primary care physicians get burned out by working 12, 14 hours a day. They quit. The turnover rate is too high. It is my view that the VA, by and large, and this is echoed by the views of the veterans community themselves in independent studies, that when people get into the VA, the quality of care is good. But I will tell you, if you don't have the primary care physicians, the other physicians, the nurses that you need to treat veterans, they are not going to get the care that they need. This legislation will target $500 million in unobligated balances for the hiring of new VA doctors and nurses. I see that as a significant step forward. Mr. President, one of the great, I think, embarrassments or shocks that all of us feel is that within the military we have seen in recent years horrendous accounts of sexual assault. What this legislation does is say to those women and men who were sexually assaulted in the military that when you get into the VA, there is going to be quality care for your needs. This legislation also touches on a couple of issues that are not directly related to health care but have overwhelming support in the House and in the Senate. We have heard from many young veterans who are in college as a result of the post-9/11 GI Bill, who right now can't afford to go to college because they're not getting in-state tuition. This legislation addresses that issue. I have talked, as I know Senator McCain has, to Gold Star wives. These are the women who have lost their husbands in combat, who I think for a not sensible reason are unable to take advantage of the post-9/11 GI Bill. They want to get their lives together. They want to be able to go to college or whatever. This bill addresses that issue. Now, there is another provision which was strongly supported by Senator McCain and other Republican leaders. And and Senator McCain, I'm sure, will go into it at greater length, but essentially what this provision does is says that if you are 40 miles or further away from a VA healthcare facility, a medical center, a CBOC, or whatever it may be, you will be able to go to the doctor of your choice under the strict supervision of the VA. What this will do is prevent people from, in some cases, in very rural areas. I think this is mostly a bill for people in very rural areas who now have to travel long distances to get their health care. This will make their lives easier. This is a 2-year trial project. We will see how it turns out, but that is in the bill as well. Last point that I want to make is I don't think there's any disagreement in the Senate nor among the American people that when you have incompetent people in the VA, or worse, dishonest people in the VA, they should be removed from their jobs immediately, and that the Secretary of the VA should have the power to get rid of them. I don't think there's any debate about that. Where there has been some debate is my view is that those employees deserve due process. And I say that because I don't want to see a situation where a new president comes in and for political reasons fires 400 top executives because they're Democrats or because they're Republicans or whatever. I don't want to see a situation where somebody is fired because she's a woman or black or Hispanic or maybe gay, and maybe really that's the underlying motive, and that person has no course of appeal. So what we have done is developed a very expedited process in terms of dismissal. We say if you are dismissed, you're off the payroll tomorrow, you're gone, but you're going to have a week to file an appeal, and the appropriate body will have 3 weeks to rule on your appeal. And I think that makes sense. I think when you think about it, it does make sense. So, Madam President, there are a few other important provisions. It is important, in my view, for the nation to take advantage of the expertise that's out there in the private sector. How do we develop information technology for people accessing the VA? We want to do that. We have a commission that would help us do that. And we have another presidential commission that will help us with construction, which has been an ongoing problem in the VA. So, Madam President, Mr. President, that is a brief overview of what is in the legislation. Does it solve all of the problems facing our veterans? Absolutely not. Should we come back and continue to deal with this issue? Absolutely. But I think given the crises that we have right now, this is an important step forward. I want to thank Senator McCain. Senator McCain's views on many issues are not my views. We look at the world differently, but that is what democracy is about. And our job was to sit down and work out the best agreement we did. And I think from day one, Senator McCain showed absolute good faith in this, a desire to reach a compromise. I hope he feels that I did the same, and we are where we are today. So, Mr. President, with that, I would yield the floor to Senator McCain and thank him very much for his efforts.
Senator from Arizona.
All right, thank you. And I'd like to say to the senator from Vermont that I respect a great deal the work that he has done on this legislation. I respect his commitment and his leadership of the Veterans Affairs Committee. I respect the fact that Bernie Sanders is known as a fighter, and it's been a pleasure to do combat with him. But I also would like to say that at the end of the day, with both strongly held views on different aspects of this issue, we were able to come together, I believe, in a way that will help to relieve this terrible tragedy that seems to have befallen our nation's veterans.